Interpretation pitfalls. I've gone through this really fast. I usually like to do this in an interactive way because when I get responses from you, I know you're not sleeping. And I can't fault you for that in a dream seminar because maybe just doing a practical exercise. Some of the problems we face when we do dream interpretation that we need to avoid are, number one, whenever we have a dream and we feel condemned, we have the wrong understanding of the dream. Why is that? Because the plumb line tells us that there is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. God would never give us something to make us feel condemned. So if you feel condemned, you've got the wrong understanding of the dream. We find what people use the term nightmares. I hate it. They're talking about a dream that has scary symbols. And almost every time we've worked through the dream with them and come to an understanding of the message, they've been excited about that dream. And it's the message that's important, not the symbols. So relax and don't let that cloud your abilities, your thinking, your hearing. It's the message that's important, not the symbols. Fear. First thing God says, angels say to humans when they step into the scene, fear not. Fear is something we don't want in our life. In fact, whenever it happens to me, I confess it and command it to go. It's not a godly thing. So if you feel fear from a dream, you're misunderstanding the message. If it's brief.
Can Satan give us fear from dreams? Nightmares?
I have found very, 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 very few dreams that I would say that Satan gave to people. I think that when people talk about demonic dreams, it's dreams that they don't understand. I haven't found one yet that I've not found God's nugget in it. Now there's a small period of time between waking and sleeping that sometimes I've had people have an encounter that I wouldn't call a dream and I wouldn't call it godly. I think sometimes there's this brief period when you're just waking up that sometimes the enemy will slip something in and try and bring fear or confusion into our lives. And that would be the only thing I would caution you on. But the rest of it, I don't like it when people say they've had a demonic dream. It's just a dream that's maybe scary and they don't understand the message yet. If God really wants to get your attention on something, He may make it dramatic. He wants you to, He needs your attention.
Steve, what about people who may dream about you and they come to you and it sounds like it's full of condemnation or judgment?
Well, if you have people coming to you because you're in their dreams, you need to ask them the whole dream. And if they're active in it, just send them, say, you need to look at it again because this is for you and about you and not me. Okay? And if you're a leader or a pastor, knowing this is very significant because you're going to have a lot of people coming to you, being a significant figure in their lives. You can just ask them, well, what was how were you active in the dream? And if you were, you can give them some of these guidelines because we're to walk with them. We give the example in our book of being parents. You're a brand new parent and you have an 8-month-old and everybody's telling you that, they're going to start walking soon, and you better put everything up 3 feet off the floor or 4 because they're going to knock things over. They're going to step on the pet or chase the pet around. They're going to bother the siblings. All of these terrible things are going to happen. They're going to fall and they're going to cut their gums, and there's going to be blood and crying, and it's going to be constant for a number of months. And yet I haven't found one parent who has refused their child the learning to walk. We walk with them, try and minimize the damage and the effect. And as leaders, that's what we need to do as well. You know, you look at the Corinthians, Paul had all those problems with those Corinthians, and he said, I encourage you to pursue the gifts. and we're going to walk with you. I'm going to give you some guidelines. I'm going to help you. That's what we need to do. Don't get frustrated, because frustration is the quickest way to not come to an understanding of your dream. Don't spend time on miscellaneous dreams. The ones we call miscellaneous are all over the place. There's no succinctness to them. Just set them aside. If you make a mistake, God understands your heart. He'll find another way of getting the message to you. Another problem is when we make the interpretation too complicated. Keep it simple. You know, there's an elegant simplicity in everything that God does with us. And I look for that in our message of our dreams. Exaggeration. Dreams tend to exaggerate. A man came to me, his father was going to die in September. That's what his dream told him. This was August. He was concerned. I said, no, just lay that aside. What's happening in September for you? Well, in my life, he said, I'm going to school. Okay. Tell me about your dad. Well, my dad used to cut me down, and he'd say I was no good for anything. I'd never amount to anything. And I said, well, that's God's just letting you know that all of those issues that your dad put on you are going to die, because you're going to make something of yourself. And it's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. Missing who the dream is about. This is an embarrassment. I had a dream. In this dream, I saw my wife laying in the driveway. It's covered with bees. And I was frantic to help her. And I almost went out, and I realized I had no covering. And I ran around the house trying to find something to protect myself from the bees so I could help her. And then I woke up. Well, we spent a year trying to find out what opening Diane had in her life to allow bees to come. You know, demonic. What had she done? Where were they finding their way into her life? And suddenly I realized, this isn't her dream anyways, it's mine. I was active in the dream. And it was about me not being prepared. And so she was greatly relieved. Logic, try and avoid it. There's some people talk about a divine logic, and if that works for you, tomorrow we'll talk about left brain, right brain. But logic doesn't work real well with dreams. And don't get caught up thinking that because God's speaking to you in your dreams that you're special. We like dreams because we don't do anything. We're just out of the picture, sleeping, and He drops this thing into our mind. Not because you're special, but you are, or any more special than anyone else. It's because He loves you and He wants to speak to you. And so avoid pride.